And when you watch rehearsals with large performers like that, someone like Christopher, who commands the space, both from being a consummate performer, but also commands the space because he knows who's standing in other positions than him,
right,
and what's going on while I'm doing this. There is that form kind of commanding the space. How do you, because again, it's this what you said at the very beginning, that the stage manager sees from a different point of view, and the rest of the team are all emotionally involved, but the stage manager sees a different frame. How do directors deal with actors who are demanding a space a certain way, like, is he going to stand there while I'm doing this?
right.
How do directors deal with that, and how do the stage manager watching other actors getting increasingly frustrated because they're being directed not by the director but by
Right.
Primo?
Yeah.
How do you deal with those kind of situations?
Well, I certainly have been in the situation with somebody who they have a performance that they have conjured up at home. This is what they're going to do. And for me, the faster the rest of the people on the stage learn to figure out what he needs in order to do that, the happier they will be. Otherwise, you would just butt heads all the time, which is unfortunate, but that is sometimes the way that it is. And it's difficult then to come into the rehearsals and think, they're going to butt heads until
somebody buckles.
Somebody buckles.
Goes on their knee and says, okay.
Yeah, fine. Yeah. Which is really unfortunate, right? It's a difficult thing. One of the times that I did the Scottish play, the young man who was playing Malcolm, very talented, Gareth Potter. The way the text had been cut, in the big scene with Macduff, in the England scene, there wasn't any of what initially Malcolm talks about, how awful he is, and all the bad things about him, and what a lecher he is, and he doesn't have any of the princely values or any of that kind of stuff. And then, after Macduff says, woe, woe to England, to Scotland, and then he says, actually, I was just testing. I just wanted to see it. Well, that part of it was gone, so that Malcolm actually was a bastard, a bad guy. And trying to get his head around that, and John Wood was the director, was very, very difficult. But there was no way that John Wood was going to change anything. And so throughout the season, I felt so badly for Gareth, he would come to me and say, look, if I could just have these 2 lines back. I go, I'm sorry, I absolutely understand why that's difficult for you, but there's not that I can do about it. And that was that's one of the difficult things as a stage manager, is to think that what you have to do is whatever it will take to get the person to show up the next day.
It's that basic?
It's that basic sometimes in those situations where you just that, yeah.
So what do you do with an actor who's lost all confidence, hates the company, hates what he's doing, he or she is doing, and do you see that?
Sometimes, yes. And usually it's not me that actually would get into that, but I would get a more senior actor to talk to them.
So you would go to Jim or Mary and say, look, can you have a few words with...
I was doing Much Ado About Nothing, and the young man who was playing Claudio, his dresser, came to me and said, Paul is just sitting at his table. He's not getting ready. He doesn't think he can do it. And I thought, yikes, okay. So I go to see him, and I say, I understand you're having a tough time. Just what's the first thing that you usually do? Well, so let's just do that. And, maybe. And I thought, you are not a psychologist, and you're certainly not an actor. So you don't really know what is happening in that brain. You really don't. So Leon Pownell was in the company, playing Don Pedro. So I went to him and I said, can you just have a chat with Paul and see if you can help? And indeed, he did. And indeed, Paul showed up. And once he was on the stage, he was fine. But for the next 2 or 3 performances even, and on his other shows that he was doing as well, he was, it wasn't a panic attack, it's stage fright, something like that, but something that is obviously totally debilitating.